episode of the Ground Control Podcast. I am Patrick Reif, bringing it to you today on a bright, crisp Friday morning. Spring is starting to trickle in here, so looking very much forward to what is in store for us. So without further ado, let's get into this week's episode. So this week's episode is going to be, I'm going to keep it tight and brief and to the point. But specifically what I want to tell you about is a little challenge that I kind of put in front of myself. And I think this dovetails really well into what I'm going to talk about next week, which is the release of an app that I've been building, but also the spirit behind Builder Fridays and relaunching Baltimore creators and what I want to accomplish with that. And, like I've talked a lot about it, and that theme is learning to be a builder myself. Even though I come from a non-technical background, I have found a lot of success in tools like Lovable and Bolt and Cursor and working in Claude Code and like even peeking my head into things like VS Code when things get tough. So 2 weeks ago, what I did was I was taking my kids for a ski day, and kind of in the entire ramp up to that process, I had been thinking about wanting to apply some limitations to building something, to give it context, right? To give myself some kind of context around what did I accomplish in this period of time? Because I think when we start to talk about, like codeathons or vibe hackathons or things along those lines, that's a big part of the challenge, right? Is okay, we're giving you this container of time. And, like traditionally, like a hackathon would be a 3-day long weekend lock-in. And I think what's really interesting is in this whole new world of vibe coding and being able to iterate quickly with contemporary tools, that's changing a lot. So what I decided to do was I decided that I wanted to build something exclusively at the ski resort, exclusively over one day, and really only when I was on the ski lift going back up the hill, right? Where it is now, I do a ton of the coding that I was doing. I'm using tools like Whisper Flow, so it allows me to just talk directly with an app like that verbal engagement with an app allows me to iterate much more quickly than having to type the whole thing out. So at any rate, that was the challenge. The challenge was build something, don't start it until you're at the ski resort, and have something usable by the time you press the button to start the car. I'd put the key in the ignition, but that's not how cars work anymore. Press the button to start the car and roll home. And that's what today's episode is going to be a little bit about. Again, I don't want this one to be super long. I really instead just want it to be provocative. I want to provoke anyone listening to this to share what they're building in a limited amount of time. Again, I'm really hoping that this episode will set the tone for why Baltimore creators exists, why this Builder Friday concept is a good idea. So that's the idea. Let's get into it. So I think one of the things that's fair to set up there was I definitely had an idea coming into it. I haven't been working with them on my own projects as much lately, but there are definitely some projects that I work with some virtual assistants on. I have some clients that we do some very intentional kind of social media outbound building and prospecting and appointment setting for them. And for some of those clients, I will occasionally work with virtual assistants. And one of the things that I noticed is that the reporting side of what they accomplish on a daily basis can be, it can kind of be all over the place at times. Like sometimes it's just a message inside of WhatsApp or Slack. Sometimes, you can get a little bit more formal document. Sometimes we're using spreadsheets. Sometimes those spreadsheets are in Google Docs. Sometimes they're in Notion. It can kind of be all over the place. And what I thought was, wouldn't it be great if there was a tool that just was built specifically to allow them to map the activities that they're doing on behalf of a client, right? So that way it can all be kept under client A, and they're able to on any given day. On February 16th, they can map the number of new connection requests they sent out, how many got accepted, how many DMs they sent, how many replies they sent, how many bookings they were able to put on a client's calendar, like those kind of things, right? The activities and the results that tie together with them. Um, and then, like, as I started working on it a little bit more, then it went a bit further to start thinking about, okay, like, how do we, for clients that might be working with like engagement pods, like, how do we also bring that work inside of this dashboard? And then the third thing that ended up coming kind of into it was also, okay, how does this, if specifically where we were working on was this tool to be leveraged for LinkedIn efforts, and the question became, okay, if this tool is very much built for this kind of LinkedIn engagement side of it, shouldn't it also become a bit of a lightweight CRM for your LinkedIn relationships? One of the things that's really tough about LinkedIn and keeping track of it all without paying for Navigator, the expensive other side of it, is that um, those are all very real contacts that you're developing there, but they don't necessarily have a great way to keep track of when's the last time that you talked with them, what does that look like, et cetera, et cetera. So that became the third idea there was, okay, how can we also make this so that way you can draw in every one of your connections on LinkedIn, and then be able to kind of set reminders, see the last time you reached out to them, you DM them, what did you DM them about? Um, see, everyone loves this idea. I'll wait. At any rate, that was the general idea, right? Was, okay, let's make it easy to track all of these efforts that are being done for my clients. Let's make sure that it's a valuable tool that allows us to continue on with it. And then also, if what we're doing is building our LinkedIn ecosystem, how does this become a little personal LinkedIn CRM? So that was the tool. All of those ideas probably weren't there the moment that I started it. So to set this up for you, right? We roll into the ski resort, we go into the locker room area and get all of our gear on. And just before we head out to the slope, I ran to use the bathroom really quickly. And it was when I was in the bathroom that I teed up the first prompt. I was like, talked through getting the kind of MVP of a PRD, right? A project requirement document, to then feed into the tool, right? And I built on Lovable, and I used Claude as kind of my catcher in the rye to help me think through things. So um, that's where the entire thing started off, and the first prompt started right there in the bathroom at Ski Liberty in Pennsylvania, and I let it crank, and I put it back in my pocket, and I went out and found the kids that I was going to be skiing with, and we headed up the slope. So, part of the inspiration, I think, for building this thing was, realizing that there no longer needs to be a right time to build something, right? I think that previously, to do something like this required getting so many ducks in a row that it was challenging, right? It was challenging. You had to really make sure that there were so many pieces that were really set up for success in doing this. Um, but the world couldn't be different now. Rather than having to plan all this stuff out in advance. And I would qualify this to say that, you know, having a preconceived idea, working through a PRD in advance, I think that all of those were even kind of nice to haves. I think that I could have cranked open the Lovable app and opened up the chat window and just started talking through right there what I had in mind. Like, what's great about these tools is they are just as smart for all intents and purposes as Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini or Grok or any of these things are. They're built with the same brains, so you can start literally with the loosest of hunches of what might be cool and kind of follow your interest from there. So I think that, the biggest risk is thinking that you've got to put more preparation into this than you actually do. Particularly if you're doing this for fun, right? If you're doing this because your curiosity tells you there might be something else there and you want to kind of just like slowly wind your way through it, um, then definitely the best way to do that is just to start, right? You start with one step forward and then you follow on from there. Um, because again, like we're not, at least not yet, right? Like the goal of this project was not to replace Salesforce, right? The goal of this project was, can I build something cool, something that has a purpose and something that works in an extreme situation of limitations, right? Like that's the point is look what I could do. Look what I could do bundled up in 30-degree weather, riding a chairlift to the top of a mountain with just my iPhone and my ideas and my voice to be able to articulate that. So um, the risk of not getting started would be not finding out that, hey, like this worked. Spoiler alert, before we get to the end, it worked. And like for everyone out there listening, thinking like, oh, that's all fine and good. You've got all the time in the world to be able to do this. That's a luxury. One, skiing with my children, definitely a luxury. Um, and I am grateful and appreciative for that. But I would also say, like tap, tap, tap. I built this in the little bitty minutes between everything that is life. I think that I've talked about this a lot before, and I am going to continue to talk about it loudly. But one of the things that I find so beneficial about being able to use chatbots like GPT and Claude as accountability and workman like partners is that they're there for all the interstitial minutes, right? So when I drive my children to school in the morning and they pop out of my car at 10 of 8, um, like sometimes I put a podcast on, right? Sometimes I listen to some music or something like that. Um, but sometimes what I do is I shift over into voice chat mode with ChatGPT, and I start working through a problem. And that problem could be, oh, like when I get to the office in 31 minutes, I need to be ready to go right that moment. And I use it to start prepping for that, right? Like, hey, by the way, 30 minutes away from this, I need A, B, and C as a deliverable to take into this meeting, or if I have this research done in advance, I'll be able to hit the ground running. Like all of those things are extremely valuable to me. But in that same sense, they're also able to be used inside of that specific ecosystem of where I'm working. So again, I think that, like the opportunity here is that you don't need to clear out wide swaths of time, right? That what you need to do is you need to be able to say, I'm going to do this and realize that um, anything that you take away in that moment is a huge win for you because had you not tried to do it, nothing would exist. Again, let me say that again. Had you not tried it, nothing would exist. And something existing, and even if that thing is, okay, like let's say that you didn't roll out with something that was functioning, right? But you did roll out with the experience of having tried to get something up and going. Like what I can promise you is that I would not have been able to successfully move all the way through that build in one day if there hadn't been previous attempts, previous, moments of edging towards what this could be, right? Like I had taken some of those baby steps before, right? So what I'm not saying is jump on a ski lift and build something soup to nuts that works without ever having touched it before. No, like that's not the case. What I'm saying is get your reps. Stop waiting to try something. Try it on the car ride. Try it while you're waiting in the pickup line. Try it when you're on the treadmill at the gym. All of these places are excellent opportunities to start testing your own ideas. And I am willing to bet that you're going to find something truly profound on the other side of it. So Again, I'm keeping this week's episode super short because it's not meant to be prescriptive. It's meant to challenge you. Go fucking build something and share it with me. Send me a screenshot. Send me a link to it if it works. Send me a DM and tell me like how it was cool and where you were let down. I think that would be really, really fascinating to hear. So um, that's this week. That's the builder's log. If you want to know more about what I built, ask me questions about it. It exists. It's working. People are using it. But until next week, if you're following along and you're watching this on YouTube, please leave me a comment. I will respond to it. If you are listening to this on a podcast network, make sure that you hit the subscribe button so that way you get notified each time we publish a new episode. But yeah, keep building. Head to BaltimoreCreators.com if you want to sign up and come to our in-person event. I'm Patrick Reif. This is Ground Control. Peace.